Okay, yeah, I think we are. Yeah, so I'm not gonna read out the spiel that I normally read.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's pretty
but
obvious what we're
yeah, but what we are going to be discussing is we're going to be discussing Dark Souls and all of the related games. So the rest of the games in the series, Dark Souls 2 and 3, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, and just kind of Souls-like games, and just kind of that entire genre. Um, but yeah, Dark Souls is a genre-defining action role-playing game developed by From Software and published by Namco Bandai Games, released in 2001 as a spiritual successor to Demon Souls, and it's a pretty good game. But yeah, I actually would like to start with that. The first part, what makes the game succeed? Like, first we have to kind of define what makes a game like Dark Souls, because that's kind of the meme that you hear, like, this game is like Dark Souls. But what actually makes a game like Dark Souls?
I would say it's straight up that it's the core of the game is the core of our good arcade games, which is that it's easy to learn, hard to master. It's the core concepts of the game are really simple, but they're tough, or they at least require skill.
Yeah, that they are. Yeah, I think that a good thing to bring up is that they're tough but fair. Like, if you can beat a game with a dance pad without getting hit once, then the game is definitely fair. Like, there's like a couple of parts in Dark Souls that I think are bullshit, but the vast majority of it is pretty fair. Like, if you know how to play it, you will do just fine.
I feel like the majority of people would not call it fair. Like, if you're not a Dark Souls fan, I think most people would say it's not fair.
Well, that's because they're stupid.
All right.
Well, okay. Stupid is a little hyperbolic. I would say ignorant is probably a better word.
I would say first-time players.
Yeah, definitely first-time players or just don't really understand the game, and it does take some learning to like be able to move around and function in the game, like to a solid degree. But
one thing I would say that makes a Dark Souls game that it is like, fuck, and I lost my thought. I'll come back.
Okay, I'll go. Like, I think the public and the media and like other game companies has focused the aspect of Dark Souls of it being hard and like no difficulty setting, and it's just challenging. You have to be good to pass through a section, and people are getting too hyped up on that because like a lot of games will say they're the Dark Souls of this genre, but all it is hard and not even anything related to Dark Souls.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I wouldn't necessarily say that Dark Souls isn't about just being hard.
Yeah,
it's like you said, it's hard to, you need to master it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, was that part of what I really like about Dark Souls is even when you're really good, you can still die by shit enemies.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would argue that it is much easier to die if you have played the game a lot, because I have played.
You get cocky.
Yeah, you get cocky and you try to run through the game. Or you can be like Luke that one time and just really take your time and just not die for like the first 3 bosses, just because you're actually taking your time and you're not fucking around.
Yeah.
But
I would also say on top of that, like on top of the difficulty thing, like Dark Souls is a pure RPG and really lets you customize your character to how you want.
Yeah.
Out in the world, you see people try all the goofy ass builds, and like they can make it work simply because they can be good players.
Yeah, I think another big part of it is it doesn't hold your hand. Like it doesn't have like a long tutorial. It tells you how to do like the basic movement and actions and stuff, and then it's like, all right, see you later, have fun, don't die.
Well, the interesting part to me is that early on, there are plenty of points very early where they're trying to get you to die because they want you to realize that dying is not a huge issue in the game. Like
Yeah.
it's part of the game. It's not a failure. It's
It's a learning.
yeah. Where it's
experience.
like if you want to run off and waste a life to just research some area quickly, you can. You just
Well, the whole tutorial in the first one is like a boss appears like as your first real enemy, and your only real option is to run away.
Or
And
die.
pretty much teaching you right away, like, hey, it's all right.
And
You
I think
can
a
come
lot of
back here
people
later.
probably just, if you're first time through, you probably just keep fighting the monster and die without that realization. And I think that's part of what it's trying to teach. I think the other thing is that in order to get good at fighting bosses, you have to keep playing and keep dying to learn all their move sets. Like,
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially bosses that have multiple phases. It's like, oh, I've gotten to a new phase. I need to learn
Relearn
all of his
everything.
moves. Like that's the one thing that I think makes Cuphead actually like Dark Souls, is because it's difficult, it's fair, and you actually need to fail a lot to like learn the game.
Mhm.
So anyone else have like some other reasons what makes Dark Souls itself?
I mean, I
I'd say
think
the lore as well. Like it's
Yeah.
very vague. Like they
Yeah,
don't
definitely.
tell really. They tell a story, but they show it rather than tell it.
Yeah, it's something you
Yeah.
kind of actually have to like look for if you want to. Like, it's not really like in your face.
Mhm.
But that's
Like
the other thing. It feels like there is something there, even if you don't look into it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's some games where there is the story. You have to go, read whatever documents, but you don't get a sense of, that story at all without looking into it. And in Dark Souls, it feels like there is something going on the whole
Yeah.
time, and there is. And I don't know.
It's just like if you look through all like the item descriptions and stuff, you get much more.
Yeah, and I think it really says something when most of the quote unquote like story is just theories, like everything about like Solaire and the Nameless King, and like so much of the game is actually just theories because it isn't 100% like given to you. Like the biggest theory, like one of the biggest like theories about the game, like of like Solaire and the whole ending of the game and finishing his quest line, is really just we have something from the creator of the game being like, oh yeah, that's my headcanon on it, even if it's not actually in the game. So I think that's like one of the actually nice things about Dark Souls, is if you don't care about the story, it isn't like force fed to you. But if you actually do like the story a lot, which a lot of people do because it has a great story, you actually have to like put some work into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to point out that it's not that it's not just a matter of the story being vague. I think it would be very hard to try to make a game where there is a story and it's vague and it's in the background but it's hinted at, like, and do it well. I think it would be far more difficult than having a good story, than an upfront story. But like, it's such an interesting way to go about it, and they nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
And-
really took a gamble.
Yeah.
They're like,
I also think that part of it is that it's all in mostly environmental storytelling, and the world around you tells a story in a different way, and like you're visually seeing all of that change in the world.
Yeah, like one of the I spent like an hour last night just reading lore on Dark Souls bosses, and it like all the bosses are just so unique, and they I was reading this whole thing on Aldrich of from Dark Souls 3, and because it was like, oh, you see this guy and it's like, oh, it looks like just a guy who has a giant goo body, and there's actually like a whole backstory that's not really that's kind of hinted at in the game, and just all the bosses just have so much character to them to the point where they're almost like, well, they are part of the story, but they're a very integral part of the story.
mm-hmm. So I don't know if anyone else has more to add to that, but we could also move on to like games that are like Cuphead, Ashen that just came out recently, like games like that and other ones that have failed.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect. Games that games that are comparable and games that people have compared that aren't. If you know what I mean. Do you guys have any that are in mind?
Yeah, I mean there's you kind of have two different categories. Games that are like spiritually like Dark Souls, like kind of like Cuphead, because Cuphead is not a third person fighting RPG game at all, but it's got some like themes that are similar to it. And then you have
Right.
games like Ashen or Lords of the Fallen
Where
that
they're
are
very-
like that they are trying to copy the style of game that Dark Souls is, and some of them have done so to more greater or lesser extent.
Cough, cough, cookie cutter enemies, cough.
For which game are you?
Ashen.
Uh,
That's Ashen. I mean, I haven't
I've
played
heard
Lords of the
some-
Fallen.
I've heard some complaints about Ashen.
I haven't heard Lords. I haven't played Lords of the Fallen either, but that's because I heard it wasn't that great. Well, I think that's because when it first came out, it had like a lot of like graphical and gameplay issues. I believe. If I'm remembering that wrong.
My issue with Ashen, very briefly here, is that it's like it feels like just a big open area. There's no paths or anything, and enemies are just kind of sitting around. A couple of them. And you're like, okay. And I don't know that I was paying enough attention to enemy placement in the Souls games. And obviously, okay, like I thought 2 has some awful enemy placement at parts where I'm like, why is there just a group of enemies here? Like, what is this? But yeah, it affects it.
The only other game I can think off the top of my head that is similar to Dark Souls is me and Mitch played Necropolis.
Yeah, that has a lot of Dark Souls vibes.
Yeah. And I think that's just it's a very different like it's similar to Dark Souls like in that it's a third person fighting game, but it's a lot more roguelike.
Yeah, because it's
Dark
definitely roguelike, and Dark Souls not roguelike.
Yeah, it's not. Which is actually kind of interesting because I think a lot of games that are similar that are compared to Dark Souls are roguelike games when Dark Souls itself is not a roguelike game at all.
I feel like Dark Souls is this weird in between because it is a roguelike in that when you don't have bonfires, you are going into
Back to a checkpoint.
Yeah, you die and go back to a checkpoint, but it's like starting over again. Like everything's back, you know?
I mean, I guess you it's not just progress. You lose resources, but
yeah. But it's still not exactly the same. It's roguelike,
Yeah,
still very different.
It's much more of a RPG than I think it is a roguelike. And I had this whole argument with Tyler about like what even constitutes an RPG because I had an argument with Tyler about what's more of a RPG, Dark Souls or Mass Effect. And
I think it's also because a lot of people think of RPGs in different mindsets, but
yeah.
That's true. I mean, yeah,
both are, but
well, yeah, both are. But I was like, which one is
more? So I see there'd be an interesting argument there because it's RPG in the role-playing character development sense versus actually being able to develop a unique character, which is
because my argument was that since you play as a like fixed character in Mass Effect, that's more of an adventure game to me because you don't create. Well, I mean, I guess you can like choose your gender and I don't think you can really choose how you look, but
also your impact on the game is still relatively minor.
you can choose whether, but yeah, you can choose whether you're like good or evil, but
and then you get maybe a few different endings, but in general, you're still pretty much not. You're just going down a few different trees.
Although in Dark Souls, again, you can choose the quote unquote bad ending or good ending, which depending on how you interpret the story,
could be either one.
Yeah, it could definitely be either one.
Which, if we're going to compare to Mass Effect 3, which is bad ending versus bad ending.
Not even sure because I haven't played Mass Effect 3. Played the first two, but the third one isn't on Steam, so I'm not playing it.
Fair
Well,
enough.
until later. But yeah.
Ooh, actually, we discussed Hollow Knight, didn't we, on game discussion?
Yeah, wasn't
Yeah,
that
we
our
did.
first? That was our first, wasn't it?
No.
Oh,
no.
The
second or third?
Second
yeah,
or third.
It was early.
Yeah, it was
Long
pretty
time
early.
ago.
Because I'd say that's about as close. I mean, it's just it.
That's
It's
like
fair to
Dark
say that's
Souls-
just a 2D Dark Souls, right?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
because it's a Metroidvania, and Metroidvania existed before Dark Souls.
Right, but Dark Souls is in the spirit of the level
true.
layout
Dark
of Dark
Souls-
Souls is a Metroidvania.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, the story is almost identical as well.
Yeah,
but I would
that's where
definitely
I'm
say
like,
that there's a large impact of Dark Souls on that game, and it has a strong vibe between Metroid and Dark Souls.
Yeah, the way that you open up the levels in Hollow Knight, and they're definitely.
I
They
suppose
definitely-
because it's linked with abilities more so than just getting keys or just going to the other side of doors, that makes it closer to Metroidvania, or well, closer to Metroid,
Yeah,
because Metroid's like you got the super bomb, or not original Metroid, you know what I'm saying?
well, and you unlock
Metroid series.
items that allow you to unlock different parts of the map.
Yeah, as opposed to just
Whereas Dark Souls is more
You got
of a
lever.
progression, as like, oh, you beat the boss, keep moving on, and then a few spots where you do need to get keys, but not in the same way as getting abilities.
it's actually kind of crazy to think about. The actual progression of Dark Souls is you go around a thing and you press a button, basically. That's
Pretty much.
Or
most of the
something.
progression.
Or something. of
You
the
kill
very-
something, or you pull a lever, or you
Yeah,
press
it's
a
mostly
button.
like you open a door from the right side or you kick a ladder.
There's
I feel like the
where you
most-
light some fires and a door opens.
I feel like the most like Dark Souls 2D game is Sultan Sanctuary.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think I've ever played that one.
I haven't gone super far, but it's pretty fun. I think it's a lot more like Dark Souls. There's a lot more like interconnected worlds, and you can or like areas and stuff, and like you have to like find the shortcuts and stuff, and it's very like kind of like same kind of dark kind of style.
Yeah, it looks like it.
There's also Neo,
Yeah,
another Japanese.
Oh, Nio, yeah. I
don't know
actually
how
I can't
well
remember
that
if it's Neo or no. I remember people really liking it when it came out. I never finished it. I want to, but it's like I don't know how to put this because it's not strictly a negative. This is gonna sound bad though, since we're talking about Dark Souls. It reminds me of Dynasty Warriors while I'm playing it. And I don't mean the aesthetic. It has a little bit of that feel.
I
'cause,
haven't
like-
played Dynasty Warriors, so
Yeah, I haven't either.
It's like it feels like you almost combo enemies as opposed to just fight them.
Yeah,
And,
that
like,
was
you don't
another
really, but everything you can attack faster because of all the different stances. You're like, oh, I have an ultra heavy weapon. I'll move it to the poke mode, and you're like, okay, I'm using a strong weapon in the weak stance. So I mean, like, you can use any weapon because you can switch stances to be like, okay, I'm using a little dagger, but I moved it to the heavy attack, so it's slow and heavy now, and just does tons of damage, but it has 0 range. And it's like, okay. If you were craving a Souls game and you didn't want to replay one, I think it might be a fair way to go because it's not a bad game. And it's different.
I'll just wait for From Software's new game.
The new one
Yeah.
looks really good.
Their Japanese Dark Souls one.
Sekiro, something like that.
Shadows
Yeah.
Die Twice.
Yeah.
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, yeah. I have such mixed feelings about that game.
It's gonna be interesting to see if it holds up.
Well, with the higher mobility stuff, I'm worried. Like, is there like any reason to? Because you don't get money from killing guys
And the counter.
because you can't level
attack
up. You can level up item. Yeah, I'm like,
And the
essentially,
dying.
it's
It's weird.
Yeah, dying looks. I guess you. What do you get? You get 2 or 3 deaths before you actually, instead of Estus flask type things, you use consumables.
I
But
have
then
no
when
idea.
you,
All I know is you come back to life shortly.
yeah, it looks like you get several revives, and then as if as a replacement of the Estus flask, instead of getting more health, which there are consumables for, you can die several times before having to respawn back at your lantern or bonfire or whatever it is.
Remember when they said they weren't gonna make another Dark Souls, and then they made another one?
Didn't they say that and then they made Bloodborne? Wasn't that back then? Oh no, that was after 3. You're right.
I'm just saying. That's
Yeah.
a joke. Like, it's pretty much.
No,
the same
they
shit.
I remember when they
They
said
made
we're not going to
Bloodborne
make Dark
after
Souls after what was the one on the PlayStation 1? Kingdom something? The one where you ran around with a sword in first person? It was really janky.
Oh, Kingdom Come Deliverance. That one?
No.
Oh, I don't.
No, that's the one that's really realistic on PC. First person sword.
Oh,
Yeah.
whoops.
It's funny. I was thinking that exact as well, but I was like, I'm not going to meme.
I don't know what you're talking about then.
Dang, I want to call it King's Quest. Now I don't remember. Let's go from Software King Gang. King's Field. Yeah,
Never heard of it.
94. It looks janky, but it is technically a 3D
Ew, yeah, what the hell?
game. Yeah. Oh, look, there's the Moonlight Greatsword. The Moonlight Greatsword was in that game. All right, good to know.
So I just thought of one more thing that like what makes a game be Souls-like,
Yeah.
but it's also something I feel like only applies to the first Dark Souls, which is also conflicting in what I'm going to say. But I feel like
That's fine.
in general, the level design and world design of Dark Souls 1 is also part of what makes it a really good game and what makes it Dark Souls. But then
I agree.
that's really lost. I haven't played 2, but it's very lost in 3, where you can teleport everywhere from the beginning and it's a linear straight line.
That's
Well,
how
that's not entirely true.
I honestly, as big fan of all of them, do not mind.
I definitely think like I definitely agree with that kind of world design where you get shortcuts. That's why I definitely say that the first Dark Souls has the best design out of all 3 of them, but I think the third one definitely has the best gameplay. Well, mostly just because it came out way later. And yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Because Dark Souls 1 had great like design for
The way
for
everything was
world.
interconnected was really cool, and
Yeah.
like as you unlocked areas, you could very quickly traverse the entire map because of all the elevator systems that connected the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I'm biased. I started with Bloodborne. I had Bloodborne, then 3, then 1.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so I loved 3 because I was like, this is just Bloodborne 2. Except for their shields now.
So, I'd say I like the whole design of it, but I think it's also really weird story-wise to keep everything so close together. Like, all the enemies to each other are like literally right next door, and it almost seems like it takes place in like one giant city or some shit. Like,
Yeah, I think that would be
Like-
the argument against keeping it super interconnected if you want
Yeah.
separate regions, which might be why they did that. I don't know.
I think that's the reason why they did Dark Souls 2, the layout, how they did it that way. It's a lot more sprawled out and horizontal rather than compact and vertical.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to make a sense of like journey and actually being in another different world rather than stepping 10 feet next door and then all of a sudden you're transitioning from like a castle to, I don't know, some crystal cave forest place.
But part of that for Dark Souls was that it's all like kind of built on top of each other. It's like a new city built on top of a dead city and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I did love. I really like that feeling in Dark Souls 1 of just like, you're just this piece of shit nobody who escapes from an asylum, and you literally have to like go through the sewers to get into a city. From that city, you got to get into like a fort. Well, you got to get into like a church and into like this really significantly shittier city. And then you like, I just love the feeling that you are not supposed to be in this world, and you're like, even especially in Anne Orlando, you're like this homeless guy breaking in windows and climbing in and trying to get at these guys because the city was not built for you. And it's something I really liked about the world design. Just really, really kind of tying it to the story of like, this entire world is against you, and you're just this random guy, and you got to go out and murder everything.
Yeah.
I will back Nick up on the adventure part of it. I think that's like with 3, it felt like you're going. I mean, for better or worse, it felt like you had to go a very long distance, and it was like it you know, you get. It feels like you go to a totally new place.
I think 3 did a nice blend of 1 and 2 in terms of design.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but
well, and from the developer's standpoint, it's like, okay, they get to switch from the compact to this other thing, so they can go for some slightly different theme, and also they don't have to work on making sure the world fits together like a nice puzzle.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Physically, they're like, if we want to add an area, we can without fucking up everything. Like,
just like that whole fucking cloud dragon area in the 3rd one, where the nameless king is. Like, that was some cool shit.
Yeah, or the second expansion, or the first expansion. The first expansion where you just talk to a guy and you get basically sucked into the painting from Dark Souls 1.
Oh, yeah.
Or that was one thing that really...
The painted world.
Yeah, was the painting in the first Dark Souls the painted world of Ariandel? Was that the same one, or was it...
Yeah, it's the same painting.
Was it the different one? Okay. That was something that did interest me about Dark Souls is, except for like the expansions are just... The expansion in the first game is actually pretty hard to get to unless you know exactly what you're doing and you look it up online. And they kind of throw them at you like in the middle of the game, which I found kind of interesting. Or they throw it to you at the end in Dark Souls 3, or at the end of the first expansion. I have not done this expansion for the second game. I still need to do that, but
how could you?
I can't bring myself to keep playing the second game long enough to get to it.
It's the DLC has probably some of the best bosses in the entire series.
Oh my god!
At least one of them does. Fuck, I can't remember.
I will try to get to it eventually, just because it's more Dark Souls.
It's definitely games I want to play eventually.
All right. We about ready to jump into gameplay?
Sure. Unless we
Funny how
want
we
to talk
talked
about
so
a
much
little
about it
bit
so
more
far.
about world design, since we're
kind of on that.
Well, I suppose jumping briefly, I believe the world of Bloodborne is a lot more interconnected. I know that's slightly off, but
interconnected.
It's slightly more interconnected than, say, Dark Souls 2 was. It's got some areas that are pretty far away too, but I mean, there's parts of the game that were like totally disjointed, or not disjointed, not in a bad way, I guess, but I mean like you're like, oh my god, I thought I had gone through like some portal or something, and I'm like, wait a second, that's that area. What the hell? How'd I get here? And okay, that makes it sound bad, but you're like, okay, you took an elevator, and you're like,
Yeah.
wait a second, I can go here? This isn't like imaginary? What the fuck?
There was something about Dark Souls that I liked because it was like every single place you see, you can go. Like you look, oh, there's that castle off in the distance. You're going to that castle, and it's kind of interesting for like Dark Souls 1 where you're at Firelink Shrine, and you can see like the entire game from there. You can see the massive tree. You can see New Londo. You can see the city that you're going to and all that, and that was just kind of cool.
I also like how you could like see Ashen Lake from way up above, even though it's really hard to get down there. You have no idea that really that was existing.
Mm-hmm. Or yeah.
I'd say one of the greatest things is like the consistency that they have throughout all the games. Like you're always usually you're gonna go to a big giant castle.
Yeah.
Sometime in the game, you're
And
gonna
they might sound
through,
super
like,
similar.
Yeah, it might be the same thing, same castle. You might be like outdoors in giant forests, and eventually you're gonna go underground where it's gonna be dark. And like even if you're above ground, it's still dark, and the whole theme of it, overall, it's just a dark aura around it. I don't know. I'm just babbling now.
Yeah, it's a very kind of dark gothic vibe, and also based heavily, especially in the third game, but overall on the anime Berserk, which is pretty cool.
Lots of references.
Oh yeah, like there's a whole bunch of enemies like the Boreal Valley, like that have these giant knights turning into beasts, and that's a huge reference.
I took that as they were carrying over some of the aesthetic from Bloodborne, because Bloodborne absolutely has that whole thing going for it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was just like, oh, it's like it felt like a halfway between Dark Souls and Bloodborne for that aesthetic, and I was like, yes, I like this.
Not so much the aesthetic, but the gameplay. Like the final boss in the DLC from Dark Souls 1 is essentially the cleric beast. Like just this big enemy with a huge arm that does these giant like smash attacks. And
yeah, I noticed that. I looked back at the picture and I was like, did I look up Bloodborne? What? Oh, that's right.
And that's because the DLC for the first game was the last thing they worked on before they started work on Bloodborne, the A team from Software.
Copy paste.
Yeah, let's give him a reskin, throw him in there.
Did they give him a reskin, or did they just say, okay, just break his horns and make him look like he's been living in the sewer for 50 years?
I think they just took his magic away and dyed his hair.
Yeah, probably. He has horns in Bloodborne, right?
Yeah, giant. They're
not as thick though. They're
don't
more
know.
like the curly, like what is it, ibex horns? They're thinner.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gameplay.
Yeah, screw it. So yeah, I'd say one of my favorite unique things is the ability to really customize your character, as I said in the beginning. And this is where like the whole game just becomes into infinite possibilities. I recently just actually watched like a video last night about some dude who did like a giant great bow build in the third game to one-shot people.
Oh my god.
And he made that work, which is amazing because bows has never been really that great.
Yeah, bows are just like
PvP.
Yeah. So it's awesome, the flexibility to do it, even if they're really fucking bad builds, you could still make it work.
It's also interesting, like how much the gameplay has changed between the three games. Like just how significantly different it is. The changes they've made to magic or the different abilities that you can put your stuff into. Because like I don't even think poise is actually like really useful in the third game, but in the first game, it is very useful, and also like it's the reason that I will almost always go at least partially pyromancy in the first game is because you don't really need to do anything with it. You don't need to like invest in it super heavily because pyromancy in the first game doesn't scale. It only scales with your flame level, so you can very easily like get some pretty powerful fire spells early game if you've got like enough intelligence to actually wield the flame.
Yeah, I use pyromancy almost always because this is like you said, you could match it with almost anything.
Yeah, I mostly just do like a sword and board build with like a bit of pyromancy because later in the game it's super useful against certain enemies.
Yeah, it makes sense why I've been having. I don't want to say I've been having trouble. I was trying to play it exactly like I'd played Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, and I got most of the way through the game without even touching a shield and just using a one-handed sword and being like. But I made the mistake of picking one that was dexterity based, and I had got my dexterity high and then my endurance really high. I was like, all right, I want to switch to an ultra great sword. My strength is 12. I'm fucked. Goodbye.
Yeah.
I always play the game without a shield. I don't like playing with one.
I always play with a shield.
Yeah,
I just think it's too easy.
I use a shield very often until I get the Black Knight's halberd, and then I just put a bunch into strength and I just murder everything. Because I don't know if it's like both times I've played Dark Souls 1, I've gotten the Black Knight's halberd, and you can just like if you have like 34 strength or something, it murders pretty much everything. It is so good. I love that weapon.
Yeah, my favorite build is the ultra great sword, and then having light armor and just rolling around dodging.
Yeah, I do that with the great scythe. I always go with great scythe and the gold hemmed.
Yeah.
Set.
In the first game, yeah. I always get the great sword, which is hilarious because it's ultra great sword, but they just call it great sword.
The first game is one of the only games I actually play with like super heavy armor. Like I'll go full Havel's set. Because against certain bosses, you can pretty much kill them before they kill you, like the Four Kings.
Yeah.
If you've got like a very solid weapon that you can two-hand and you go heavy armor, like you can just, as long as they don't hit you with like their big grabs, you can just wail on them. And that's how I beat. That's how I beat Gwyn the first time. Is I did full Havel set, iron skin or whatever, and basically just killed him before he could kill me.
I just parried him and two-shot him.
I sucked at parrying the first time I played.
I learned parrying just for that battle.
Yeah, I learned parrying from trying the buckler dagger build and just got good at through that way. Just forcing myself.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to do a parry build next time I play the first game.
Has anyone here really touched magic?
Oh yeah,
Sorcery.
A tiny bit, but not really.
Yeah, just a little.
I did a lot.
I've never been a fan of it.
I did a lot in the third game, and it's pretty good for burst damage and also trolling people in PvP, but
I just find it way too easy to dodge in PvP and stuff, at least.
Yeah.
PvE, I'd say it's excellent as like a backup or something. But
it's definitely something that the game is not based around. Like same thing with bows.
I would say that with I've used faith magic a lot, but
Oh,
not
yeah.
anything else. Like both in Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls, I really liked faith builds.
Well, yeah, you can mix those pretty easily, by like having a hybrid melee build and
Yeah,
like
that's what I did a
throwing
lot of.
lightning and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only like magic I liked was like the crystal weapon, because I just put that on my like swords or something for extra melee damage, magic damage when I melee attack. But no, I find most spells just really slow and boring.
I think for me, it's a mix of just not really trying to get into it, and then the little bit that I did try wasn't interesting.
I think the problem for me is the melee is just too fun.
Yeah, I feel like you're
Mhm.
doing more when you're meleeing. You're not just sitting back pressing some buttons.
Yeah. Like running around, then standing still to cast something and seeing if it hits or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about when you guys like first tried the game, like armor wise? Did you had any plan or something?
Well, I had zero plan when I first played the game, and
Same.
the first time I played the game, it also took me over 2 years to actually finish it.
Yeah, I think mine was like I was trying to wear what I found was like had the highest stats at that time.
Mhm.
And then I just looked goofy as hell. But then what's great about this game is the more you play it, the better you get, and then your gear actually doesn't really matter. So, as the game is called, Fashion Souls, you put on a sweet ass outfit and then fight.
That's pretty much what I got to doing. Now every time I play the game, I mostly just wear the armor that looks good, as long as I can roll the way I want to.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the main flaw with. I'm still playing. I hadn't finished Dark Souls 1 because I didn't start it until like a year or two ago, and yeah, I've been dumping everything into equip, so like I can do a regular roll with the not the Havel. No, I guess it is the Havel suit. Yeah, I can do a regular roll with that,
Oh wow.
but I can't. But I'm like, it's not worth it. Like it doesn't like that much higher of a defense it's noticeable, but I'm like, I can't dodge anything with that. Just
Mhm.
like, okay, well, I'm gonna fight a boss. I guess I'll put on the leather armor. Like, okay,
And just throw on a shield that absorbs damage or something.
yeah, a couple shields, a couple weapons. Gonna be like, why not? I have the equip load for it. It doesn't affect my roll.
Yeah.
At this point. Yeah.
I'd say during PvP with like armor and stuff, the people you really have to watch out for and keep on your toes are the people who are naked.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Because when they're naked, you know something's up. They've got some sort of trick.
So your guys' first time through the game, what weapons did you guys use?
Okay, so when I first played the game, it was Dark Souls 1. When did I try it? I think it was sophomore year of college
Mm-hmm.
when I first started.
Yeah, I think that's.
And
probably
I tried doing a hybrid build. I wanted to be like a battle clerk and use faith spells, and also have like strong melee. But I didn't know how to do stats on my character, so my stats were all fucked. So like I had like some sort of steel shield and then a oculate mace. Just like a really shitty enchanted mace that I found.
Just put everything in resistance.
Yeah, and then like I just had goofy mix of armor, and my stats build was so messed up that I just could not get past Smog and Ornstein.
Dude, I was stuck at Smog and Ornstein forever.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
had to. I think I had to use Solaire first time I beat them. I might have even had to like have a summon a phantom who like really helped me out. Like one of those people who just carries you through it. Like that's how I first beat the giant black dragon from the DLC from 3 is
he's
like
a pain in the
one
ass.
person came in to help me and like soloed that boss for me, and it was
What a blessing.
amazing. Like not all heroes wear capes. Some heroes play Dark Souls. But first time I went through Dark Souls 1, I did go through the first one first. I'm pretty sure I just did like a strength build and probably just used a club. Well, not a club, but probably a mace for a good chunk of it until I found a better one. But yeah, I think I read somewhere that it was like, oh, endurance is a great dump stat. You should get to 40 as quickly as possible. So I probably just dumped a bunch of it into that in strength, and that's how I like did most of it.
Yeah, my first build was mostly strength build with a claymore initially, and then I played with the claymore up until I got the Black Knight's halberd, and then I just used that the rest of the game.
Like you never needed a different weapon than that.
No, once you have Black Knight's halberd, there was like no reason to use anything.
Did you get that early in the game?
Yeah, I got it very early in the game.
That happened to me too on one of my playthroughs in Dark Souls 1. I got the Black Knight Ultra Greatsword.
Oh man.
Yeah, I feel like if you get a Black Knight weapon, then that's what you should do.
That's your build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what, we're gonna do this now instead. Like, my brother was helping me out at the time, so when he saw that I got that weapon, he's like, "We're changing everything." Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching a Let's Play pretty recently, and they got to the guy who like dances and buffs everyone around him, and one of the guys had like never played before, and the other guy was like had played it a bunch, and he was like, if that guy drops his weapon, we are making that our weapon. We are changing our build to use that weapon because it's like a point. It's like a 0.1% chance to drop. But fuck, what was it? What else was I gonna say? I think that was everything. But
I think my first build was mostly Dex, and I used rapiers until I found the S stock, and then the S stock until I got the Great Scythe.
it's one thing I like about Dark Souls 1 is because Dex is just still really good. Like Dex and Strength, you can do very well with either of them, where I think the third game favors Strength quite a bit.
Most definitely, yes.
I don't think I've ever done a Dex build. Actually, I think I've done it somewhat once.
That's the first playthrough with Dark Souls 1, the one I'm still working on. I started with the scimitar. I'm still going with the scimitar, but I'm starting to dump points into strength. I'm like, I want to switch to ultra great swords.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that was mostly my multiplayer build in 3, but also it's very good. PvE is just wearing a certain set of armor that's like pretty decent, but it's not super heavy, and just using the green grass shield and the Fume Ultra Greatsword, or the hammer that you get in the DLC, which is like the highest strength weapon. Both of those will just wreck house, but you also want to be able to like not. Well, you want to be able to move while you're using them.
Since we're in gameplay and weapons and whatnot, I really wish they brought back boss weapons, like from like cutting them off from the boss, like in the first one.
Yeah.
Did they not do that in the other weapons? In the other ones?
No, they I think they did it in the second one, but I don't think they did it in the third one.
In the third one, it was just the boss souls, just turning the boss souls and weapons. That was the only thing you could do.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's done in like different games, gameplay wise, that they don't ever like copy. Like the first one, They've got that. They've got the curse mechanics with like the ghosts that you don't really use anymore.
Yep.
The second one had a bunch of them, some of which I thought were actually really interesting, like the fact that you could do different things to change the boss arena to make it easier. I actually thought that was a very interesting idea, which I kind of wish they had brought over, but they didn't really.
Boss arena.
Yeah. In the second game.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. So you can like affect the arena to benefit
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah. Like the first boss is this big piece of shit with a halberd, and if you just run straight to the boss arena, there's a big ring that you fight him in, and he has a lot of like push attacks. So he can like push you off the platform into water, and that just kills you instantly. But there are different levers that are in the area, and if you pull them, they make more platforms come up so that you have a larger area to fight him in. And if you get all of them, I think it completely fills the floor out, so he can't even like push you into the water, and it makes it a lot easier.
That's a really cool mechanic.
There's a different one also that I remember, where if you burn a windmill,
Yep.
it will drain poison out of the next boss's arena, which I'm actually not sure how it would be significantly harder if you didn't do that before fighting that boss.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the prisoner dude. If you like light the torches on either side, that makes it a lot easier because you can actually see everything.
Yeah. And that one's actually like kind of interesting because in order to get the torch to the boss arena so that you can like brighten it up, you have to get through this whole like flooded area with a bunch of really like shitty guys, and getting through that area with your torch is kind of annoying.
I must have gotten that far because I remember that fight. In 2.
That's kind of surprising that they didn't bring that into 3 at all. It seems like a really interesting mechanic that they left behind.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they had a lot of mechanics that I wasn't a huge fan of in 2, like the fragrant branches of yore. I just thought that was super
that was so
dumb.
annoying.
Like having a finite number of objects that you have to use to get into different areas.
And there's so many like places to use them all too, and if you like use them in the wrong places, then you're like kind of fucked.
Same thing with like the Pharaoh's Lockstone. Like there are some Pharaoh's Lockstones that you can just completely waste and not actually get into the areas that are actually interesting. So
I never had an issue with those because I did the Rat Covenant, so you get those as rewards if you beat the person.
I never knew that. I was the only Covenant I did a lot with in the third one was Belbros, just because I loved the second one actually had pretty solid PvP, I will say.
Yeah. I actually loved it a lot. It was so awesome because it was really shield heavy PvP for some fucking reason. And that was also when you were able to dual wield ultra great weapons. So I would get 2 ultra great swords and then just go wail on people who's like holding their shield up and just drain their stamina. Just fucking kill them afterwards. So much fun. But then there was also a lot of cheaters, so
yeah, fuck cheaters.
It's always fun. Speaking of covenants, which ones did you guys generally join? I usually just like actually don't mess with them.
I never really did in the first one. I never felt like they had a very big impact. Like the forest was nice if I wanted to do some PvP, and on the off chance that it wasn't a hacker that got summoned, to.
Yeah, I hate that you had it. that you had to like be at like a 24 faith or something in the first one to join the Sunlight Covenant. I didn't really.
Yeah.
Seemed like a really high threshold to join.
Well, it made sense until they realized it's like super fucking popular.
Yeah, until they realized that literally everybody loves Solaire.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I always joined the Sun Covenant, but
Yeah.
and I never really got enough Sun medals though to really make use of them. Like I feel like the grind on it is just too much. On some of them, though, there's some rewards in other covenants that are really good. But
You
fuck
don't
that grind.
need to have 25 faith to join the Warrior Sunlight in one, because if you go help people, it gets reduced by 5 every time.
Oh,
Good to know.
The covenant that I did that I always do quite a bit of in the first one is the Chaos Servant, because that actually like affects shit in game.
What's the Chaos Servant?
The Chaos Servant is like the spider lady one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I never joined
Where-
that covenant.
I always did it because I mean you kind of have to do it if you're going to save Solaire
Yeah.
story wise. If you get to rank 2 with it, it'll open up the shortcut and you go through and you kill that thing so that he doesn't go crazy. So I try to do that most runs if I'm not doing like a speed run or something. And also it is a great way to, I'm pretty sure that's how you get the Chaos Fireball relatively easy, I think. Which is a great, pretty low maintenance weapon that you can get for pyromancies. Not early game, but like kind of mid game.
I honestly forget most of the covenant names in the first game. What were like? Who are the blue people?
The Blade of the Dark Moon.
Yeah, the dark.
Yeah.
Okay, I did that one on one build, and that was pretty fun. Because we did, me and my brother made a Luke Skywalker build. So you joined the that covenant to get the faith build, and then we put the, I don't remember what the spell was, on the blade, so you had a glowing blue blade and went Dex build. So
Yeah.
this is Luke Skywalker build. And then, what was the red one, the evil one?
Dark Wraith.
Dark
Dark
Wraith.
Wraith. That one's so
Dark-
hard to join.
Dark Wraith is so much fun though. I loved
is.
invading people. But yeah, it's really hard to get to Dark Wraith. It's very inconvenient.
It's pretty easy in the third game. I think I played around with it in the third game. But I think the one that took me forever to, because I didn't even know that this area existed, was Path of the Dragon in the first game.
Yeah, 'cause you gotta
you
go all
have
the way
to
down
go
to
to
Yeah, because you have to
Ashen
hit
Lake.
a
Ashen
random
Lake.
illusory wall in
Blighttown.
at the bottom of Blighttown, and you got to go through that whole area that I didn't even know existed in my first playthrough.
I only found out because my brother told me it was there.
Yeah, I only found out because John told me it was there.
I just hit every single wall. Seriously, I hit every single piece of wall that I'm like, this could be something. Okay.
Yeah.
You get a lot of shit.
hmm
Every area has like 3. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mostly just look them up.
That's totally fair. I think that's legitimate in a
Yeah,
game like
that's-
this.
Yeah, because I legitimately played through Dark Souls 3 the first time without using Undead Bone Shards because I didn't know what they did.
Oh, yeah. No, I always play Hollowed. I don't give a fuck. I never use Humanity in any of these games. I'm
Really?
like, yeah, I've never used one. Because the main thinking is, okay, if there's a resource that makes me back to my normal, if I run out of it, then I'm just fucked because I'm used to having more health.
But
I guess-
the bonus of it was that you could summon other people too.
I don't care. I do not care about that. That's
And for
something
some
we can.
events and stuff, you have to be hollow. Like you probably missed out on a lot of just other NPCs invading
Yeah.
you and stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Basically, it's anytime after I kill a boss, I'll like walk into an area and it's like you're being invaded, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but you get sweet ass shit from that.
Yeah, like in the
Eh.
third game, you gotta
can
do it to
get
fight
that.
Longfinger Kirk.
But I mean, that's like a side effect of I don't know. There's not enough encouragement to use your humanity because I'm like, I don't care. Like the actual material, I'm like, so the only reason to use it, I guess there were a couple. I do remember specifically using it at certain parts because it was like, okay, I need to fight this random invader guy, like, because he's gonna have some cool shit. Okay, I'll use the humanity for that. I didn't care about the actual intended purpose of using a humanity and consuming one, and it was like, I suppose that they're not called humanity and oh wait, no.
They're embers in 3, humanity in 1.
Well, okay. I guess I was thinking about it in 3. What are they called in 3?
Embers.
They are called embers. Okay, yeah. I used one once. There's the one boss I was having trouble with. The guy riding around on the lightning dragon thing.
Oh, yeah, the old.
Yeah.
I had trouble with him, ironically. So I had trouble with him while he was flying around. When he was on the ground, I killed him the very first time he landed.
That's the
Like,
opposite for me.
Yeah, and that's why I had read, and I was like, fuck, I'm having trouble with the dragon. I'm just gonna get destroyed. So I was like, when I finally killed the dragon the first time, he landed, and I was super tense, and it was like, I wasn't even looking at the health bar. I was just like avoiding his attacks and just like being really careful and just poking him here and there, and it was like, he's dead. What? He's dead? Okay. Yeah.
I think the first time I actually did that boss fight again was I went in with somebody else and they just started using these massive crazy spells on him and just knocked him out of the sky, and I was like, damn, I'm garbage.
Move on to characters or something. Talk more about bosses.
Sure. I'd like to talk about like kind of gimmick bosses.
Gimmick bosses. All right.
Which
one?
Because
Like the one where you can cut his hand off and he dies.
yeah, that one definitely. Ceaseless Discharge.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's quite a few of them. I think there's probably
Out of Chaos.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
kind of dumb.
Which one?
Out of Chaos.
You just run and cut some tree limbs.
But it's so close. Like I always forget where the floor is gonna fall out, and then I just run and die.
It's not fun. It's just absolutely the worst.
Yeah, there's also like Yorm the Giant, where it's like you just use one weapon on him
Yeah.
and he dies. Which
That was influenced off of Demon Souls boss. You had to get like a certain weapon to kill the boss. Pretty much.
Which like almost makes sense if it was an Easter egg boss.
Yeah.
But like main boss, come on.
Like one of the big, like major.
Yeah, one of the 4? No,
Yeah.
5? What is it? How many were there? 7? Whatever.
I think it was like that in Demon Souls 2. So one of the main guys.
in Dark Souls
Yeah.
3 there are 4 Lords of Cinder that you have to fight if you include the 2 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Did you want to talk about any specific one, Zach, of the more gimmicky bosses?
I think those are the main gimmicky bosses. I guess like
Well-
it's kind of a this is an optional boss, but it's in Dark Souls 2, the old king guy. That is just an annoying boss fight unless you don't have the gimmick. Basically, his gimmick is that the more souls of giants that you have, the more damage he takes. So
Mhm.
if you have 0, it is almost not worth fighting him because he will almost take no damage. I had all of them except 1, and I still had to wail on him for like half an hour to actually beat
which boss?
him.
What's this again?
It's the old king guy from Dark Souls 2. Basically the king that was driven insane by his wife.
The old Iron King?
I don't think it was the old Iron King.
No, not the old Iron King.
It was
Oh,
Vendrick. Yeah.
He's interesting. One fucking gimmicky boss. Dark Souls 2, the Looking Glass Knight. Has anyone tried doing that?
I thought that one was
yeah.
actually a pretty fun boss fight.
Wait,
I think that was
which
super-
one? Which Dark Souls?
Dark
The
Souls 2, the Looking Glass Knight. If you have like humanity and multiplayer like connected and all that, his shield is like a big mirror, and there's some way that you can invade while somebody's fighting the boss, and the boss will summon that person through his like giant mirror shield.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So you're not only just fighting an NPC boss, you're also fighting fucking people too.
I've got something
That's
cool to
fun.
bring up after this. How many of you have played the Ringed City for DS3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Have you played the that was something I enjoyed playing a lot, is the boss fight where you literally fight another player.
Yep.
I played that. Like, it takes forever if you're actually a part of the Covenant to actually get in, but it is fun as fuck while you're doing it. Because basically, the first part of the boss fight is just this huge guy, and then everybody kills him, and then it summons another player and gives them like a bunch of health and a bunch of powers and stuff, and like that person becomes the boss fight. And I think that's a very gimmicky thing, but I also find it very cool.
That's also like in Demon Souls. You get summoned to be the boss, but you get no special perks or anything. It's just like a PvP battle.
I need to play Demon Souls.
I do.
Played it
Well, the servers are off though, aren't they? Are they down?
I don't know. It was
I thought
back
they got
when
taken offline.
we were all at the house because Josh was playing it. I was watching
Yeah.
that. I don't think they were off then, because he was definitely fighting other people.
You know, I feel like the multiplayer component is something that we didn't talk about at all that fits directly into what makes a game Souls-like.
Being shitty in the first couple.
Well, just the fact that people invade you, like that's a totally new thing. Like you're in a single player game and someone else can come into your world and fuck you up.
And not only that, it's like it's canon. Like,
Yeah.
it's a thing.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I like the most about it, is that it's tied into the world and the lore.
Yeah, I will say the invasions themselves don't actually bother me. The notes bother me more than anything, though. I play in offline because I hate the fucking notes. Like
Hilarious.
the notes, I don't know.
They're
They
so
they,
funny.
I know, but I mean, like, if I want to get into what's going on in the game, they kill that for me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm willing to be like, okay, random
Great
naked
chest
people invading me is canon. And I'm like, yes, I can accept this. But like, when there's like, dry tongue butthole every 5 feet, or just like, it
Don't
says,
give up, skeleton.
or like secret path on the edge of every cliff. It's
Or
like,
try jumping.
yeah, I'm like,
Try
Okay.
jumping.
Or
See, but those notes could be very beneficial too. You
I know,
find
but
new
I've
stuff
had lots
because
of
of the
benefits.
notes.
I don't like being. I don't know. It bothers me when they like tell me a secret. I'm like, no, I want to fucking find it on my own.
I'm
That's
the
that's
exact
the point
opposite.
for me.
I think it's so cool that people can leave notes and I can find secrets I wouldn't have found.
I was really. I don't know. I was like, come on. Like when there were a whole bunch of notes in Bloodborne when you come across that minigun guy. I was like, oh, you
Yep.
piece of shit. I would have been like, he would have gotten a kill on me. And I wasn't like, yes, you saved me. Because I was like, the bonfire's right there. The lantern's right there. Like, oh, I don't need a fucking note. Like, come on. I want like discovery, man.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that is when I see a note that's like right in Anne Orlando that says "amazing chest ahead," that's what I look. That's what I play the game for.
I am right with you.
That was great.
And it's always there. Like it might as well be put there by the devs.
Oh, I've never not seen it. It's always been there.
Hmm.
Go there in offline mode and tell you if it shows up. All the dev notes still show up.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Like there are a bunch of notes at the start that actually
Well,
like tell you the
that's-
game mechanics.
That's the quote unquote tutorial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. There's some in other parts of the game they added in the Prepare to Die edition. Like they have a couple hints throughout
Yeah.
that I've noticed.
Well, we're on bosses. I'm just gonna jump straight to this. I was really dissatisfied and disappointed with the whole ending of the Dark Souls series and how they ended on the last boss. I don't
And
know, everyone
in Dark
feels
Souls 3?
Yeah,
Like the
How they
regular
end the whole-
ending, or are you talking about
the
like the DLC ending?
DLC ending.
Okay, I didn't know anything about that. I don't really care if you spoil it though. So
Oh, that we can get into that because I actually really like that ending.
Really? I like it as a story and everything, but I don't like it as an ending to the series. Like, I don't know.
Like, what didn't you like about it?
He just doesn't feel like the appropriate boss,
Okay.
like at all.
Yeah, I read some stuff about it, and I think it actually kind of makes sense.
I get his whole
Um,
story and like him getting the actual Dark Soul, and then yeah, him being a boss, but him being the fucking final fucking boss. Fuck you.
I think kind of the point of it is it's that he's supposed to be just some random guy, because it's kind of like your character. You're just some random guy. You're just some random.
wait, which character?
others.
Can you guys explain this more in depth? I might have seen this, but I'm not sure. The way you're
Okay.
describing
you,
it.
So, yeah,
you definitely
basically-
met the character in the third one, so you didn't have to play the.
Yeah, so the guy that I mean, obviously, massive spoilers here for the end of Dark Souls 3. But the guy who gives you the scrap of cloth for the DLC for the Ashes of Ariandel, Slave Knight Gale, basically his job for, if you've played Ashes of Ariandel, the little girl painting the thing, he's like her guardian or something. And she tells him, like, I need the Dark Soul to paint this, essentially. The blood of the Dark Soul. And so he goes out to get it and, like, basically murders everybody and eats them to bring the Dark Soul into him, because it's all, like, the blood of the Dark Soul is... the Dark Soul is literally in almost every human, and so to actually like reform that, he basically kills everybody. And the ending of it in Dark Souls 3, the expansion, is like you do something that basically sends you to the end of time, and there is nothing but ruins and dust, and he is like in the middle of it, like eating the couple of last like pygmy lords. And he's like also gone insane from consuming the Dark Soul. And basically he is this giant final boss guy, and also has a repeating crossbow because he's basically Guts.
Yeah, he turns into guts, literally.
And
What's the final boss's name?
Slave Knight Gal.
Say that again.
Slave Knight, Gael.
So it's this like red cloaked flaming dude.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Yeah, he's around a couple times throughout the game in the third one, before the DLC.
Yeah, he's in the Ashes of Ariandel a little bit.
But
yeah.
I really wanted it to be the pygmies, because, or like the pygmy that you hear about in the first game. Like, that's why I kind of wanted to fight.
Yeah, I wish they had actually done a little bit more of an explanation on like who the pygmy lords are and what
Yeah, right.
exactly.
Also, there's like multiple of them. And
Yeah, it's like, and also the pygmies are something that is different from humans. Like the pygmy lord is like he created humans, but he's not a human.
yeah.
Because I think there's one picture. No, it's not a picture, but it's like a statue in the Ringed City that is of a pygmy, and they don't look human.
Yeah, no. They look like a hollow, pretty much, though.
Yeah,
They look more hollow.
I do kind of, yeah, I do wish they had expanded on that a little bit more. But yeah, I think Slave Knight Gale was a decent choice because he's also just kind of this random guy, and just like your character is just some random accursed undead, and it just kind of shows like the potential that humanity has and like the power of the actual Dark Soul itself. Because like the whole thing of the first pygmy splitting the Dark Soul among humanity, and each one of them being able to gain so much power, and then kind of the ending being all of the Dark Soul being brought back together in this one spot.
Is this what all happened? Because from what I remember, I thought from the first game it just said the pygmy just took the Dark Soul and hid. And then the third one, all of a sudden, they fucking found it. Unless there's story, all that story I missed.
I did some reading on it. I think he does like basically use it to create humanity, and each human has like a piece of the Dark Soul, which is like their humanity, with like a piece of the, or maybe the humanity is a piece of the abyss, or I know that I'm pretty sure he split it between like all of the humans. That's kind of.
Or is like the humanity or whatever fragments of the Black Soul. Because that would give you humanity a little bit of power. I don't know.
And this lost.
I'm still gonna go with
Yeah.
fuck you, Dark Soul.
This lost knowledge would eventually be go on to form the foundations of the healing church, the blood healing church in Bloodborne.
That is actually a theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, the theory is that the girl who's painting the painting, she paints it with, well, she eventually does paint it with the Dark Soul, and the theory is that she paints the world of Bloodborne because she paints it with blood.
Her period blood. That's why
Gross.
it's got babies.
Well, and she's able to make magical paintings to some extent.
Well, yeah,
Her
she's the one
paintings
who,
are real.
yeah, she painted the world of Ariandel.
Yeah, so it would work. Or the end could be they could add the extra little Easter egg ending, where you just jump into another painting and then you just land in Super Mario 64.
Perfect.
You just go around and just slaughter Goombas.
Yeah.
Or the Goombas slaughter you.
Yeah, they're actually like.
Fine.
Yeah.
They're the mushroom people, the mushroom guys who can just deck you with one punch. Those guys will fuck you up. They're slow as shit, but they fuck you up.
Oh god, can you imagine a chain chomp in a Dark Souls game? Just a giant fucking thing that one hit kills you.
Yes.
Bullet Bill.
Yeah, Bullet Bill is the one cannon guy on the hill in Bloodborne. Remember? Wow.
What was your guys' like bosses that you? For me, I'm thinking Dark Souls 1 because that's where most of my experiences. But like bosses that you got stuck on the most going through, especially your first time.
Ornstein and Smo.
That's
Yep.
definitely the
Yeah.
biggest
Yep.
one.
That's
Like,
where
I-
I am currently.
They suck.
Yeah, there's some tough customers.
I only won. The only reason I got through them originally is because I summoned another player and wow, I'm blanking on his name. But yeah, whatever. Summoning two people made the big difference. So
Oh, yeah, definitely.
For me, it was definitely Smog and Ornstein, but also the DLC in the first one is Artorias and the
Oh,
Black
yeah.
Dragon. Josh and I were stuck on Artorias forever. Though we also
It's
had like
so
two.
hard.
We also had like two sort of goofy builds going on. Like I was going a dagger build, so I had to be really fucking up in his butt just to fight him. And then I think Josh was like a spellcaster. But him flipping around and everything gave us a lot of trouble.
The thing is, if you use a great shield against him, he's actually not that hard.
Yeah, we didn't have the stats to do that.
Or if you have the Black Knight Halberd and you're just able to knock him out of every time that he tries to like power up, he's actually not super hard either. But yeah,
You should be
That
taking
and
notes
the
because
fucking dragon.
I want to finish this game within the next week.
The Black Dragon is just a fucking bitch.
Well, I guess this isn't. Yeah, Calamite is pretty difficult. But the one that probably got me stuck the third game the most was the Dark Eater Madir. I've never beaten him, her. I actually don't know. Legit, I've beaten them with a summon once because they are arguably he is the hardest boss in the game, arguably.
Dark Eater who?
Dark Eater
Madir.
Madir, he's from the DLC. It's just a giant black dragon that's got a giant laser beam that like one shots
yeah,
you.
that's right. That's right. Holy shit, he was difficult.
Oh yeah.
Fuck. I don't remember him. I'd say definitely from Dark Souls 2, the DLC, the fucking samurai boss. No, do you remember what I'm talking about? The Fume Knight?
Yeah.
The Fume Knight.
I would definitely say he's the hardest in 2.
I would say he's the hardest in the series. One of the hardest. I think it's the Fume Knight. Or is it Sir alone? Or I think it's the last boss in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Sir alone.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't experienced him yet, and you want to cry, go fight him. He will fuck your life up.
Yeah, I definitely like the DLC in 2 more, I think, than the base.
Oh yeah, definitely. I kind of like it over some areas of like the main game, some of the others.
Mm-hmm.
Some really high quality shit. One of the things I like that number 2 did was in New Game Plus that they actually moved enemies a bit. They kind of like try to keep it fresh, try to surprise you. And
I
the
think
first
that actually
one,
they moved a bunch of guys just period after the DLC came out. They like rebalanced a bunch of areas into
in 2.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. And with the DLC or with one of the expansions, I guess you guys probably know this, but there's that one expansion that made it so that spawns were finite. Enemy spawns are finite. They respawn 15 times.
Yeah, oh, that helped so much on some parts.
Yeah.
I remember the giant staircase that you had to climb up of. I can't even remember the area. But there's just a bunch of knights that you have to fight going up of it to fight a boss. I think it was a dragon there. If you decided to fight him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's like
Yep.
that's like the first area, like the first legit area you get to. There's just a bunch of giant knights and they're really tough early game, and past them is a dragon, and past that is another spoiler, but it's basically Ornstein.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It was kind of fun fighting Ornstein in 3.
Yeah.
Or just seeing another Dragon Slayer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they like shoehorn the characters that they really like into each game. Like, actually, I can't remember if Havel was in the second game, but he's definitely in the first game. He quote unquote might be in the third game. Might just be one of his warriors of Havel. But Yeah, it's just interesting.
Speaking of that, did you guys know in the third game that Pontiff was actually supposed to be the last boss?
Pontiff Sulivan?
Yep, he was actually supposed to be the last boss in the game.
I've heard some interesting fan theories about him.
That would make sense because he's got the 2 swords, and they're trying to do that, switching off weapons. It might make sense. Reimagining. No. I mean, he isn't hard enough for that, but sure, I can see that.
It's lore wise because he's the one who basically created the whole world in the third game.
Okay. He's the little girl from. Oh wait, no, that was the end of the game. Never mind. That's when they finally finished the Bloodborne series. You have to kill the girl that painted the world.
Oh, okay.
She's the final boss. It's just like that one Kirby boss or whatever. She's just constantly drawing more knights for you to fight. It's like, God damn it, stop it.
It's like, what was that children's book with like the kid with the purple pen who just draws a bunch of shit and becomes real?
That SpongeBob SquarePants episode.
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, I did hear this whole. I completely forget what the fan theory is because it was really long and really complicated. But yeah, it was basically like why Pontiff Sulivan is basically responsible for the world in Dark Souls 3.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a theory. I think it's an actual thing.
Wait, what I just missed. I stepped away for a second. What I missed?
I originally said that Pontiff from the third game.
I heard about the Pontiff part.
Oh.
What maybe I was just finishing up then.
About the theory.
Yeah, what's the theory?
Zach said that he basically created everything in the third game.
Oh, I see. Oh, one thing I was going to ask you guys. I haven't, like I said, I have not finished Dark Souls 3, but I've seen a lot of the game from watching my brother play.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, what you guys' thoughts were on the final boss before the DLC of Dark Souls 3,
I thought it was pretty appropriate.
and like the story elements and how it ties back into the first game.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, how it's how his second phase is literally Gwyn from the first game, and the music actually changes to that music as well.
Yeah. I
think
thought
it's
he was
really
appropriate
cool
difficulty.
that it's all
Yeah.
tied into that. And then I guess in a way you could think of that as being fighting yourself from the first game.
Yeah, I thought it was like
Mhm.
fighting all sorts of builds that you play throughout all the games.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
basically who he is. He's like everybody who's beaten the game before you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that was a really
Or-
cool
yeah.
element to finish up the original before the before the DLCs.
Yeah.
It also kind of ties into like the whole meta story behind Dark Souls, like the fact that this has all been done 1,000 times before,
That
and
dude's just a regular dude too.
yeah, and
Oh my God, Zach! What you just said suddenly puts Fallout 76 into context. It's a masterpiece. Everything's been done 1,000 times before.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's like the story from BioShock Infinite. It's like, oh my God,
Oh my God!
Elizabeth is my daughter. Ah.
My daughter and my mother. Mhm.
But yeah, and like kind of the story of like if you stopped playing the actual game, your character went hollow because you gave up hope for beating the game. So that's like just the
I've
whole.
never thought of it that way. That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
And it also ties into like this was in the LP that I was listening to before, but they bring up the point like to actually successfully do the NPC quests in Dark Souls, you cannot let them succeed. In almost every single quest, because if you help them succeed in their goal, they go hollow because they have nothing to live for anymore. You need to like help them enough, but not like help them succeed. Fuck, what's the sorcerer guy? Big Hat Logan.
Oh, yep.
Because if you actually help him like get to the archive and he gains all the knowledge he's ever wanted, he goes insane and goes hollow, and you have to kill him. There's if you the pyromancy guy, if you actually tell him like, oh, the person who is the creator of pyromancy is down in Blighttown, he'll go down there and he'll die, I think. Yeah. He'll basically die. And you'll fail the quest. I mean, he doesn't really have a quest, but you also won't be able to like buy shit from him.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to tell him like, no, I didn't meet the person you've wanted to meet your entire life. Beyond that, Solaire, I guess. You have to help him like not achieve his goal, because if like he actually like later in the game he gets more and more depressed, like he's like, I'm never gonna find my own son, and you have to stop him from finding the sunlight maggot because he thinks he found his son, and then he just goes fucking insane. But yeah, that's most of the NPC quests in general.
I never picked up on that.
Yeah, because that's the majority of the thing behind the theory of being hollowed is if you have something to motivate you, you don't go hollow if you have something to live for. So if you accomplish your goal, then you don't have like something to drive you anymore, so you go hollow.
Or you die and go hollow.
Yep.
Dying is always nice.
Or you become a Lord of Cinder.
I feel like my mic just muted itself. So that's kind of a depressing message, though. It's like in real life. Oh, well, I don't have to worry about going hollow. I'll never accomplish my goals. Or is that positive? It's almost positive.
Yeah. Chase your dreams, but don't quite attain them.
Yeah.
Oh, stay hungry. Get that bread.
That's why rich people get depressed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and for those of you who want to know, the story I was referencing earlier was Harold and the Purple Crayon. It's a good book.
Purple Crayon. I don't think I've ever heard of that.
He draws stuff and it is real because he has the magic purple crayon.
Oh my god, I've seen this. Yes. Okay. This is a children's book. Oh my god, it's 1955.
Wow, it came out a long time ago. Holy shit.
This looks vaguely familiar.
The way you were talking about it, I was assuming it was like not a children's book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
It's
that's okay.
definitely a children's book. I
Yeah.
had it when I was growing up.
I was expecting it to be some like random like sci-fi or fantasy thing, and then it's like nope, it's a kid's book. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, it's a young adult's novel.
Oh no.
He falls in
Oh
love
no,
with the
you
crayon.
can draw whatever you want. No.
Oh god.
So, should we talk about some enemies? The enemies of Dark Souls.
Sure.
Sure.
Um.
Nah. One thing I want to say is I like the variety that they have. They have a lot, and it's not all of like just the same thing as like they're all humans. Just one's like knights, and this one's got a spear, and this one's got a bow.
I feel like that is
lots of different monsters.
Yeah, it's a lot of Lovecraftian monsters, but I think that's something that's used to make fun of Dark Souls a lot. It's like, oh, you're just fighting guys in armor, which is a lot of the guys, but you also fight a lot of monsters, a lot of, especially in Dark Souls 3, like a lot of like Lovecraftian goo monsters.
Mhm.
That's where they're pulling it. They're pulling it from Bloodborne, man. They're just like, these are the ideas we didn't have space for in Bloodborne. They would work perfectly here. That's probably what it was, actually. We made these assets, but Bloodborne is not really the same type of aesthetic. It's more like, early London.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of what that's mostly what I associate with Lovecraft is like early, like London, like colonialist London or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it really works with like the kind of high gothic fantasy world of Dark Souls.
Oh, definitely.
That's the other reason that everyone's just wearing armor. It's gothic fantasy, like you said.
Yeah.
Oh man, they need to add when they make their I don't know, one that's like exactly Dark Souls but different, and then they can't call it that. They call it like Light Souls or something.
You mean Demon Souls?
Dread Souls. Yeah. Oh, they just do Demon Souls too. That's a great idea. Demon Souls remastered. Here we go. Oh, God Almighty. No, they gotta have like, oh man, they could do a play on that, like an enemy that doesn't look like they have a weapon, and they're like they look like they're a suit of armor, like kind of like a mimic, but like they run up to you and then part of their armor just like flies off and they'll smack you. That sounds stupid, but in my head it makes sense. Like the thing they'll like stretch into some other shape and whack you, and then it will come back to them. So it's harder to read.
That is, I'm absolutely sure that's in Dark Souls. I mean, it kind of is.
I was thinking.
It's kind of with the like first boss from Dark Souls 3, the suit of armor guy who just halfway through he just explodes, and it's like I've got this goo inside me.
But I mean, like a per attack type of thing.
Yeah.
Because then it's harder to read the actual attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, it would be really annoying, I guess, but there's no thought put into this on my end. Let's be real here.
All right, FromSoft, you want to hire us? My rate is $1.
Nice.
Put a worthless NPC that the player will inevitably slaughter that has a name vaguely similar to one of ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. Such an iconic enemy from Dark Souls is the Mimic.
Oh God, the mimic.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, that is originally, I believe that's also from D&D.
Well, yeah.
Just originally.
I'm not
Well,
saying
like,
it's
they're
original or
style
anything.
too.
I'm just saying, like, one of the things that people talk about the most
Yeah.
is like the Mimic chest. Like, ooh, piece of treasure, and then fucking, nope, you're dead now.
Yeah.
That's why that's another interesting thing that was from Dark Souls 2 is you could actually destroy chests if you hit them too much. Otherwise,
you could actually.
Or if you hit them with too much damage. I accidentally did that in 3 because I had I think it was an ultra great sword, and I did a charge hit on it, and it was like, oh fuck, there's some rubbish.
just vaporize everything in the chest.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely an interesting enemy to just put throughout your game.
Yeah, I think they like really dialed it back down. In which one did they? Like there was almost no mimics in. Is it number 2?
Are there mimics in 2? I don't think I'd come across one yet.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
There's definitely mimics.
One
One
of the
first one is in like the camp kind of place.
I just know one of the games barely has any.
I don't think 2 has a ton of mimics in it.
No.
It's similar to like illusionary walls, not a whole lot in one of the games.
But yeah.
It looks like there are 7 mimics in Dark Souls 2.
Nice.
That
Not a lot.
seems low, but I mean, I guess there aren't. Maybe there's only that many in 3.
There's not that many in 1. It's probably
There's-
around the same amount.
Yeah, I think 3 might have the most. I don't know. But yeah, always fun. And I like that they add the little detail of like knowing if it's a mimic or not.
Yeah, if you look at the chain the correct way.
Yeah, it's just an
Yeah, it's
extra
just a
detail
very
that a veteran player can spot out compared to a newbie,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which makes this game awesome.
One
Or
thing
if you're a
this is-
veteran player, you just remember like, oh, this one's a mimic.
Yeah, that too.
one thing that would be cool that relates to what you guys just said is that it'd be cool if mimics were like random, like the chests. If they weren't static, like any chest could become a mimic.
There's mods for that do
Because
that.
then you actually like make sure you're paying attention to all chests, and then there are more chances that you actually get stuck by one.
Then they would need to not have the chain be reversed. It would just need to be the movement, because the
Yeah,
movement
just,
is like,
the breathing. I think that
Yeah.
would be fine. I think that'd be understandable.
or you know what, make the chain actually random. Too.
That would work
so like
too.
on real chests, it could be either way. And it'd be like, oh no.
I just think that would definitely add to the game.
Then you get to the one room in Dark Souls 1 that has like 8 chests and just have a panic attack.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's gotta be if you no, because there aren't any places that have 2, are there? 2 mimics
I'll be right back.
in one anyway. If you aggro one, all the other ones should get up.
Hmm.
Just because then the extra horror of that.
Yeah. Other than that, this seems like a pretty good spot to stop today. We've been going for a couple of hours.
It's been
Oh
an
dang,
hour
we
and a half.
have.
Did we want to talk about multiplayer real quick or anything?
I think we already talked about multiplayer a little bit. We could talk about it a bit more.
I'd say it definitely was not. It was garbage in the first one. I haven't played the remaster, so I don't know what it's like now. Did they add the new like system in the remaster?
I don't know about the new system, but the remaster was definitely the first one where I played it at like where at high population with a lot of other people, because I played it like pretty much the first week it came out.
It
I think
had hackers really early though.
I think it did, but I didn't see too many.
I've never really been big on PvP until the third game when they introduced that arena and you can just search for a person.
Oh
and
yeah, that was cool.
to that place. And then I did it a lot and just fucking stomped on people.
Yeah, a lot of it, I just did it to be trolly because I had like cool weapons I wanted to test out. Other times I was just trying to win and I was just a piece of shit who would use like these super fast like rapier weapons and just put like lightning damage on it, and like there's almost no way you can beat it.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a very, very specific build.
Yeah. I like PvP in the world too, but it really sucks that they're not more hard on like cheaters and stuff, because it really sucks like using humanity and like you're having a humanity for a good while going through bosses and summoning people and friends, and then all of a sudden hit just a hacker who's just you can't kill and is super fast, and just there's this one asshole who had the I think it was number 2 the Croatic stuff that like breaks your armor or whatever.
Mm.
Do you guys know that? Or what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Yeah, he used that thing like it was like a pot that he throws at you, and he just kept on throwing that at me and just broke all my shit.
That's firstly annoying.
I couldn't do anything to him. But yeah, other than those people, like with each iteration of a Souls game, PvP's been getting better. I wonder if they're gonna have PvP in their newest game.
They're gonna have a battle royale in their new one, and you'll want to kill yourself. Well, it would almost work in a game like that. Well, no, in an actual RPG, like
Yeah.
you drop in and it's like You treat it a little bit like a MOBA. There's some mobs you can kill for extra souls. You get more souls, you get stronger. Over the course of the that could be actually dope. Now that I'm thinking about it, it'd have to be like 2 hours though for a match at least.
2 hours, holy shit.
No, you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna drop in and be like, okay, you have to kill things, you have to pick up like better weapons, get better gear, and then kill the bosses that are like in this map, and then start slaughtering the other players.
Mhm.
Like, okay, maybe that'd be too long, but you'd have to come up with something to make that good.
Sounds fun though.
That could be interesting.
Or you just don't make it a battle royale and have it be a persistent open area that's like, this is the PvP arena, and it's like, a miniaturized Dark Souls map.
Did when people did PvP, did you guys find like a lot of good players or more people to be shit?
I found a good number of good players. A good spot to find people is like right after you beat Pontiff Sulivan. That's right after that. That's a really good area for like starting or finding PvP, because that's generally where like everybody goes for it.
I always just did the arena thing. I never like really went to like after Pontiff's place or anywhere else.
And like never did
just
the
like-
arena. I always went to right after Pontiff.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like I beat most. I feel like 95% of the people, and like the only person I had the most trouble is you, Noah. Like when we face against each other. Like that's it. I don't know. I found most people to be just not as good.
I've been invaded while AFK before. That's really fun.
Oh, that's
course.
that's awesome.
I go to the bathroom and I'm like, fuck, I'm dead. I was just hiding out somewhere. I mean, it's never. It's like, okay, that's my fault, but still, like, oh, come on.
Yeah, it's still kind of dumb.
I mean, okay, if I was gonna invade someone if I invaded someone and they were AFK, are you kidding me? Of course I'm taking that. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was just my thoughts of PvP. I don't know if anyone else has much.
One other thing that gameplay wise that I thought was really nice about, can't remember if they had this in Dark Souls 2, but they definitely had it in Dark Souls 3, like weapons that you could two-hand, but like drastically changed up how you used them. Like weapons that were like two-handed weapons that were made to be two-handed. Like the dual swords that you could hold in both hands, that actually had like specific weapon combos for being dual wielded.
Yep.
Like I really liked the rapier like claw combo that you got from the DLC, because that a lot of them would give like really interesting weapon combos and like power attacks, like the weapons that had like magical effects on them that you could like do crazy magical attacks with. I think that was a cool thing that they added.
Yeah, I liked it a lot because I was using the 2 ultra great swords, and the alternative with that is you just swing both of them at the same time. And then, like when you hit someone, it just deals like well over 1,000 damage.
And there are certain like boss swords and stuff that you can wield that you do like crazy jumping attack combos with. Like it's basically an anime.
Yeah, the Watch Knights, Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, those guys were cool.
Sword and dagger. Oh, they have some of the most fun weapons in this game. That's
Yeah.
why I wish like a lot more games had a lot more styles with different weapons instead of being the same. Like even in Dark Souls, like one great axe can be different from another great axe still, even
Oh
if
yeah,
they're
definitely.
same category.
Yeah. Tons of weapons, even if they have like the same move set, can just be drastically different. And I think that is something that's really nice about Dark Souls is it has just a extremely varied variety of weapons to choose from
Yeah.
that fit a whole bunch of different play styles. Like, I don't know. Like I was trying to do an all fist build in Dark Souls 3, but I gave up because it was maybe I was trying to do that in the first game, or no, it was the third game because the third game actually has a bunch of fist weapons, but I probably got bored with it.
I tried a fist build. It was pretty alright. Does okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I heard that's like a problem with Ashen, the new game that just came out. Like for how much it looks like Dark Souls and like tries to play like Dark Souls, I heard their weapon variation isn't very good. Like I heard one two-hand weapon plays the exact same way as another one.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I want to play it more, even though I have only had really like negative things to say about it. They're not horribly negative, and that's probably the wrong attitude because like the biggest issue is the enemy placement above all else, because then it's just like the encounters just always feel the same unless they're special enemies, which I guess I'm not sure that there are any. I would assume there are. There've got to be bosses, right?
Yeah, I heard there's bosses.
Yeah, so that'll be something. It's got the non-Estus Flask situation, so you have to farm for the resource you use to heal yourself, which not a huge fan of. But yeah, all the weapons I'd found, I can't remember. I think the main difference was their reach and then their stats. But like, I don't know that I've noticed a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have the same single-handed two-handed. I guess no, I had a club and then like a sword or something. But yeah, bigger weapons are slower, smaller weapons are faster. But that's about the extent of it.
What? Tell me.
Hmm?
Tell me those facts.
Yeah.
Are true. Crazy.
What I mean though. Like they don't.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, your person's handling it almost
You
the
don't
exact
really.
same way. It's like, yeah, this is a giant two-handed club, and I'm gonna swing it the same way I would swing a short sword. Okay, whatever.
No big deal.
hmm I don't want to give them the excuse that it's early access, but like since it's not a big game, it's a small indie game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give them that leeway. I'm probably gonna touch in on it and play it for a couple hours, like once a month, or listen in on their updates, because that'd be great. If I hear news about an update, I will go and play it like immediately, just because I want to see how it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well.
Yep. It seems like we're running out of steam, so that's probably a good spot as ever to end it. I still probably have a lot more to say about the story, but yeah, we probably want to wait until a different video if we're going to do a deep dive on that.
Yeah, I definitely would have to freshen up and review some videos.
Yeah, I'd have to do some reading on that because that lore is deep.
And a lot.
But yeah, if that's everything we want to do for this discussion, I'm also just getting very tired because I've been drinking beer and that makes me tired.
Yeah. Oh, Before we get off, there's one other game just to recommend quickly, linked to this, Hyperlight Drifter.
Oh, yeah.
Vaguely similar in that type of thing. I haven't played Titan Souls yet either, but
Hyperlight Drifter definitely has some Dark Souls-ish vibes.
I still need to play that.
Isn't that
Like,
mostly just boss
I need to
fights?
beat it.
Yeah,
It's-
there's enemies, but it's mostly about the boss fights.
Noah, did you just say you hate it?
No, I played it, but I never beat it.
Oh.
it's not a long game. I'm most of the way through. I was taking my sweet time, and I'm 13 hours in.
It's
Like-
really fun.
It's really, really fun. Although there's some
Is it-
shenanigans, like the stupid ass. What is it? You got to chain 1,000 dashes in that one building to unlock some alternate
I didn't hear
set
about
of
that.
equipment.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff like that where to unlock extra modes and things, you gotta do stupid shit like 1,000 dashes.
You want to know how you do that one?
How?
Unplug your controller and use your mouse. No joke. Because you dash in the direction of your cursor and you put it across the little finish line that recharges your dash bar. Because it's inside a special little. So if you're with a controller, you can't reverse directions. It's way too difficult. And if you bump a wall, it ends it, and you have to time it perfectly. But what you do is you do that, and then whatever key it is, it's like space or shift, and you just go tap 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 tap, and you mute the game because its audio is like off sync intentionally with that, and you just start watching a movie, and you just like don't look at it because it'll fuck you up, and you just keep going for like half an hour, and then you look and you're like, I got it. Hello. It's kind of bullshit, but
I just felt like that wasn't even worth trying for. I was like, this is bullshit.
I got it, and I was like, wow, I don't want this. Well, the bullshit is what it is it makes dashing super, super easy. It makes the window for doing multi-chain dashing like twice as large. So I'm like, okay, I need this because I can't do the multi-dash. I suck at it.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. And one other game, well, the same, we've already talked about it, but I will recommend Hollow Knight. It was probably my hands down favorite game of
Whatever year it came out.
Yeah, whatever year.
Same.
it came out.
Absolutely. Did you guys see they started releasing? They didn't release physical copies. They started releasing plushies of it that come with a digital code for it.
I did not see that.
In a Best Buy, I saw it's like a 1.5 foot tall plushie of the Hollow Knight,
Huh.
or the Hollow Knight, but of your character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I almost bought it on the spot. I wish I did.
I might rebuy Hollow Knight on Switch to start playing it again. I feel like I'd go through it much more if it's on Switch.
God, I feel like that game would be awesome on Switch.
So much easier on the go.
Yeah. I just got a Switch. Like,
Oh shit! Nice.
and
Oh my
It-
gosh,
it's great.
they have 3 plushies for it. They have your little dude. They have the one girl, and then they have the caterpillar, the grub.
Nice.
That is great.
Honestly, it's kind of surprising to me that I have not played Hollow Knight all the way through yet because I love Metroidvanias and I really like Dark Souls, and it's a combination of both. So how has that not happened?
Such a really long, complicated game. Pretty hard.
Yeah, I have more hours in that than I have in Dark Souls 1. I have
I really need to
57
go
hours in Hollow Knight.
I need to go back and actually I finished it, but I need to get the true ending. I need to beat all the second phases of the bosses. I probably just need to go through and play it again because I'm probably really bad at it right now.
The true ending is so that the true final boss fight is so fucking. I didn't beat it. I got one hit away from him, where it's like the symbolic gesture of him being like stunned or whatever at the very end. I know because I looked it up, and it was like some random bullshit where it's like one of his attacks was spawned higher up than it should have, so it shouldn't have been on screen by the time he was there, and it killed me. And I was like, "Fuck this," because I haven't gotten close, like even remotely close to that since.
Yeah, some of the spirit guys are really fucking hard. But I'm gonna go ahead and end it because
Yeah.
Look forward to our news discussion for Below.
I need to start playing it again. I haven't played it
Yeah.
since I first bought it.
I haven't bought it.
I played it a bit, got to level 3, died from a trap, and I'm still looking for my lantern. Yeah.
Good luck.
I feel like that discussion is going to be kind of mixed. It's not just going to be a fucking circle jerk of like, oh my god, I love this game so much. Which will actually.
Wait a second.
Good
Zach,
discussion.
Zach, you get. Oh, the recording's still going. Can we talk about how much Dark Souls fucking sucks?
No, I was going to talk about that as soon as we ended the.
Oh, I gotcha.
And I was going to talk
Can't
about how I
publicly
actually
show
fucking
that.
hate this game. Like
Yeah,
every
let's all
moment
go
of
back
it.
to our mobile games. Let's talk about how great those are.
Oh god.
Let's talk about how
mobile
much I
gamer.
love my new favorite game, Fallout 76. Todd Howard did it again.
Hey, we have
What
enough
about-
people who
what about
have
your-
that game. We could do a discussion about Fallout 76.
What about
Oh,
your
man.
collection of your Nuka-Cola or whatever, dark rum Nuka-Cola?
Yeah,
Did someone get that here?
No.
I've
Okay.
got this lovely nylon bag that I got with the power armor set.
It-
I love it.
And you
Nice.
store your plastic rum bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could. That's see the appropriate thing to say about Sevenfall. I wouldn't need to say this in this discussion. This discussion's
dude.
over, but
Dark Souls is done.
Dark Souls is done.
Half-Life,
Rip
Good-
Dark Souls.
Good discussion. It sucks.
Yeah.
0 out of 10. Would not recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only thing to say about Fallout 76 is that it's. I enjoy it in the same way I enjoy watching bad movies with friends.
Yeah.
And that's
agree
not
with
to
that.
say that, oh, it's fun with friends, anything's fun with friends. I mean, like, you know how, like if a bad movie is more fun to watch than a mediocre movie with your friends,
Yeah.
by yourself, it's way worse. But I'm like, that's where I'm feeling 76 is. Like, it's not a good game.
Yeah.
There's no defense of that. It's not a good game. And it does not deserve to succeed.
I feel like it skirts the line between being like just a
Genuinely
unbearable-
bad.
Well,
And
between being like just a bad game and just an unbearably average game.
yeah. The problem is they're trying to make it better,
Mm-hmm.
and it really needs to be much worse.
Well,
Yeah.
with that $13 Santa suit that was discounted to $20. That making it better?
I mean, I feel like I kind
It's
of
making
want
it
to
worse,
just-
but not in the way that actually makes it worse. It's just worse, like a worse, not like a fun worse.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it skirts the line between just like, oh, this is just kind of an average shitty movie, and let's get fucking trashed while watching the Emoji Movie. Bad. By the way, that is a great time. I would recommend it to anybody watching the Emoji Movie trashed with a bunch of friends.
I would have to get fucked up.
Unless you're like Mitch and you pass out before the movie ends.
I was too drunk. It was too bad.
Oh, you should have been like me, just throw up a ton after the movie.
We got really drunk with that
Oh,
drinking
yeah,
game we
we got-
played.
Also, it didn't help that Carly started the Woody Woodpecker movie afterwards.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh no, I forgot about that. Oh God. Zach, why do you have to mention that?
I don't know.
It had been forced out of my brain. Oh fuck.
It's amazing.
Oh fuck.
It's a marvel of modern technology.
Well, I need to head out, so we should end this.
Yeah, I should probably head out too. I gotta go to bed.
I just gotta ask you guys a quick question. When do you think we should have the Below discussion?
We're still on air. We should end that first.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting on Zach to turn that off whenever.
Okay.